I'm not sure how long to wait because last time it took 3 minutes off the beginning of the show. There again, didn't miss anything. Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are officially a live Arsenal podcast again, which is, as I'm sure you'll agree, wonderful. Don't tell anyone. We've all just had a secret party, but we all can deny it. You ain't seen me, right? With me tonight, I have the wonderful Josh. Is Christmas still dead to you, Josh? I do not see a single decoration.
There is actually a lot of decorations to my right that have been put together, but they are not assembled anywhere. We don't have a tree. Hanukkah's finished.
You still got your Christmas ladder out though, haven't you? That's
wonderful. Absolutely. It always got to help Santa down from the roof because he's getting old now. Can't we get down that chimney? Lockdown's not been kind to him.
It's not, especially considering I've got Santa to bring Sean a microwave because she's got her own house now. Good. Also, I'll save the best for last. Also, it's Pirate Kris. We're going to have to refer to as Pirate because we've got two Chris's on tonight. Hello there, matey. I'm trying to see anything festive there. No, you're all dressed in black. Are you out mugging later or are you just cold?
Just probably mugging. Yeah, I don't do Christmas. No, I live on my own. Apart from my cat, there will be no decorations nor festivities. Everything's shit. Burn the world to a cinder. Let's move on.
Lovely. I agree with that wonderfully. And I'll say save the best to last. Is the cheeriest person here. He's got a lovely little Christmas house there and a Santa at the background and
little Kinder surprise, which my team bought me, which has got all chocolates in it. Plus some snowballs for you. There you go.
Oh, well, that one got me right in the eyes. That Kinder thing, that would have been empty of all chocolate within 5 minutes of me getting it. I'm not too ashamed to admit I probably would have eaten some of the tin foil and some of the cardboard whilst I'm ravaging it like an angry bear. All right, let's go and have a say hello to some of the people in the chat. There was people here early because we now schedule our shows. Kris turned up. I told him 8 o'clock we're starting. He turned up 21 seconds early. Hey, he's a changed man. Right, we've got Creftan. You've got Sam Fisher. And we've got Loki and formerly Noza. Look at that, Kris. Ridiculous, isn't it? That's how he ended the last show. Not that you would have heard
scandalous.
It, but he ended the last show with that. Mr. Waffles is there. Stream Elements is there. I'm still not sure what Stream Elements does. I've named this show Arteta, Clueless or Genius. There you go. That's a very short topic. Mr. Waffles. I've missed Carpenter's boundless optimism.
You tuned into the wrong show tonight, my friend.
Carnage is there on Twitch, and Julio Salmondo is evening gents from Colombia tonight. Oh, the ladies of Colombia. Ay caramba. I'm not even sure if that's Colombian or Spanish. I've got no idea.
I've sampled some absolutely lovely Canadian Colombian coffee.
I thought you were saying marching powder.
I was going to go there, but no, their coffee is fantastic. I think isn't it the centre of where coffee comes from? I think
it keeps you awake all night. That's what I know about the Colombian coffee.
Especially if you snort it off the coffee. That is,
I believe that's the traditional way to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And
coffee.
Dear wonderful listeners, we now have a new option in StreamYard. You can put Q and your question at any point during the show, and then me and Josh can highlight it, or maybe even other Kris, but Mr. Pirate, he can barely turn the monitor on, so he won't understand what that star is for.
No, don't ask me. I could barely read, let's be honest.
I know. Good. So, yeah, you can put your questions in at any point. We will save them up and then ask them at the end of the show. So, where do we begin? Should we just start with? Do we want to talk about the Man United game, Josh? Because I did the 2 live shows for that, so you haven't had a chance to dance and shout like a happy salmon for the wonderful ESR goal, which is when we should have stopped the game. In fact, technically, I think we did stop playing at that point, didn't we?
So I think it was certainly close to that point. I will say now that I was probably the main cause from it. From the demise, due to the fact I gloated about us getting a decision at Old Trafford just after the goal was allowed by VAR. So, yeah, I think Kris witnessed it because we were in a mutual chat with a Man United fan and I gloated too early. And you know the rule of karma. Yeah, sorry, everybody. Wasn't Arteta. Wasn't the fact that we won't even go into Ronaldo's status as a fugitive or not, whether or not he should be on the pitch in general, or any other United players for that matter. But it was all my fault. I can only
You've
apologise.
gone there early. That's brave.
Early. I mean, it's been a while since I was meant to do the. Well,
has he gone to sleep? He's
happens.
bored himself to sleep.
He was that bored. He's like somebody's put the
I don't think he's.
Delete, and it's just.
I don't think you realised you froze then, Josh. Just
as
you were like that. It looked like you bored yourself to sleep, or you're having one of those gentleman moments that we don't talk about on here. It's a bit better than
I am at my computer, and there's certainly some tissues behind me.
So
anyway.
Had you finished talking about that? I'm never sure.
Always finished talking when Arsenal got absolutely mugged over, and part of it was our own undoing. But of course, even a guy who was a stooge for a PE teacher could beat Arteta at the moment.
Oh, jolly good. All right, let's keep teasing the pirate and get other Kris in. Kris, what did you think to the game? And at any point during that game, were you, we're going to do it here? Fourth place is ours. We've got one hand on that fourth place trophy.
Do you know what? The Man United game, for the first 15 minutes, yeah, because what I saw in the first 15 minutes, obviously we scored the goal, but even before that, like the structure and the setup of the team and the way that we control the possession against admittedly a shocking Man United side that don't press. I mean, that's basically our ideal. A team that comes up against us that is the worst team in the entire league, like statistically, for pressing. And it felt like this was going to be one of those opportunities. But you just kind of knew that even as terrible as they are, they will always get chances. And what was depressing for me is when that goal went in, I just sat there motionless. When the Emile Rowe goal went in, I was motionless. And my wife came in and she was like, I thought I heard some noise. Was that from the TV? I was like, yeah. She's like, why aren't you celebrating? I was like, because they'll either rule it out, something baffling will happen. And even if we do get it, the moment will kind of have passed. And that's pretty much what happened. Like, we had to wait for about 5 minutes. The moment had passed. And then I was a bit like, brilliant, we're up, but they're still going to get chances. We've just got to keep going. And actually, even though it was 1-1 at half time, I just kind of felt, well, we've been shafted by United, by the refereeing decisions again on VAR. So, 2 games in a row, Tomiyasu pulled down, and then obviously on Monday night gets his head kicked in. I'm sure we can talk about that. But you've got that. We've scored a goal. We've made Man United look very ordinary. So that first half, I was kind of okay-ish with. I felt after we'd scored, there was a period where we just kind of dropped off a little bit. But I didn't really see anything from Man United to scare me. But of course, the things that scare me are Arsenal. And Arsenal be Arsenaling. And that was what we did in the second half.
Pirate, how did you feel about it? Did you take it you watched the game? There wasn't something more interesting on in France.
No, I mean there were probably more interesting things on that are in France that are not even football related.
Did you at any point go, I believe in Arteta here? This looks like it's working.
No.
I didn't even finish the sentence.
Just no. Just stop it there. Just no. I haven't since it's been about 18 months since I felt that way. So no on that one. But I'll keep it balanced. I'm not going to be a troll tonight. I'm going to try and keep myself in check. No, I just thought we were really poor again. There's no to quote a phrase I think I've used before. I get no enjoyment from Arsenal Football Club at the moment under this manager. None. I get no enjoyment out of goals. I get no enjoyment out of saves. I just get no enjoyment out of them because I know that no matter how well it starts or how well it goes in the middle, we'll always fuck it up somehow. Because that's just what we do now. We are the most mid-table of mid-table clubs I've ever had the misfortune to watch. And even having gone to a live game this year, I enjoyed the experience and I enjoyed seeing lovely people like Kris. But it was all a false dawn, wasn't it? And yeah, I think I probably allowed myself to get a little bit into that. I wouldn't say carried away because at no point was I carried away, but I allowed myself to go, okay, maybe Maybe he has found a formula. Maybe there is something in this. Maybe there is a bright new dawn. Maybe he has taken the foot off the pedal marked micromanagement. But it was all just a ruse, wasn't it? Let's be honest, we beat some really crap teams and some fairly good teams that are bang out of form. Leicester. So as for Man United, worst Man United team in 10 years. They've got a allegedly convicted sex offender up front who we just knew was going to be.
Don't mention any names.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I didn't. Good.
I didn't.
Thanks.
Allegedly. But no, I mean, they've got. I mean, we made Fred look quite decent. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? Alex Telles looked the player he was at Porto against us. We were given a 1-goal head start by a goalkeeper faking an injury, and we still couldn't win. That's the most Arsenal thing you could ever come up with. No, I'm just going to try and keep it balanced. I'm going to try and be fair. But at no point in the last 2 games did I ever feel like we were going to win them. And you could stretch that back as far as Anfield. And just, I know we've done Liverpool because that was ages ago, but just to touch on games like that, if one more person says to me, well, you don't expect anything from that. Sorry, where are our standards again? Like, they used to be here, and they're now, I mean, they're not even, you can't even see they're that low. I'm just so sick of what we accept as mediocrity now. Brighton went up there, got a point. Who else went up there and played pretty well? I think Palace got a point last season. Yeah, are they better than us? Of course they are. Man City better than us? Of course they are. Are Everton better than us at the moment? Probably. So, the mediocrity gets to me. And when you go, you never have a better opportunity to go to Old Trafford and get something. And as usual, we got nothing. So pretty embarrassing overall, I'd say.
Can I just jump in just with one quick thing and play devil's advocate at the risk of really triggering Kris? Because, mate, I don't want to trigger you or anything. But
I'm on the edge, Kris. I'm on the edge.
Our home form puts us 3rd in the league in terms of home form. So home form's not the problem. It is the away form. We're shocking away from home. And we've now got 2 home games against, and admittedly, I don't think there's many of the 4 of us here are going to think that we'll batter West Ham or, maybe even pick up points against West Ham at home. But we're level on, we've got the same number of points as Man City. We're playing Southampton on the weekend and West Ham on Wednesday. If we win both of those games, we might be in 4th. I'm just saying.
Can I be the devil's advocate to your devil's advocate
Go
to your
for it.
advocate of devil? We probably will win against those 2 clubs, Kris, and then we'll go and lose to Leeds. That's my devil's advocate.
We're not beating West Ham.
Well, yeah, but you say that, but this is Arsenal. Every time the pressure comes on the San Sebastian Steve Keane, he pulls something out. That is what he does, and it's a running theme. And we'll hear all the sound bites, and we'll hear how the lads have trained well. It's their fucking job, by the way. But we'll hear all about how they've come together as a group, and Alba's smiling again, and everything's great. And yeah, we probably will get 2 results. And you're right, Kris. Home form hasn't been too bad. It hasn't been. But you can't rely on just winning home games to get in the top 4. And you can't. Our form is so patchy that we could be at home to Chelsea and Man City in the next 2 games and win both of them. But we'll probably play Burnley at home and shit the bed. And it's that consistency. And weirdly, I think the home games, the reason why we've done quite well at home is because in the main, we've got goals and we've been clear enough ahead of opponents to hang on to games. Was it Palace? We drew, didn't we, with Palace? Who was the game we won 1-0 at home recently where we really had to dig in? I can't even remember who it was now.
Watford.
Watford, yeah. That's the one. And we nearly threw that away. And Norwich again, where I think the only game that we were really out and gone was ironically the game we were at, Kris, the Villa game, where I again, sorry to be negative, but I look back now and I go, how much of that was how good we were and how much of that was how bad Villa were? Because Villa were bloody awful in that game. So yeah, I take your point, Kris, I do, but I would worry that we could get 2 wins and then revert to type over the new year again.
Yes, right. Now we've got the first topic out of the way. We're just going to do like we would just be chatting normally. So anybody talk about whatever you want. I've got us on the rails. and it's down to you a lot. So carry on talking. I'm looking for a tweet that I did that showed all the Arsenal wins and who they're against and what position those teams are in. Oh, here we go. I found it already. God, I'm fucking good. Don't wait for me.
Oh, we are.
God, are we going to talk about?
You sold us so much.
Are we talking about the Everton game, or do you want to see my my thing?
I think we can certainly talk about the Everton game. The second time I've seen Everton play, and the second time I've seen Everton beat a side that I have an allegiance with. And it's something that Rafa Benitez comes alive when he knows that the team that he's going to play against are going to try and play some football, because he goes, right, there's some tactics for me to fuck up here. And he just does purely that. It was the same side and the same tactics that he played against Brighton that he played against Arsenal. Going back to that kind of normative 4-4-2, 2 banks of 4, break up, and then keep the middle nice and tight. Don't allow any interplay, which you could see from us. We really didn't sort any of the interplay out until maybe the last minute at the first half when Odegaard got his goal. Because that's purely because Odegaard realised, I'm being marked here if I, stay static. I better fucking run off the back of somebody and into the box, and maybe something will happen. And Kieran Tierney will fire over his 8 millionth cross of the game, and he might put it on target to somebody this time. But I thought generally it just seemed like a very odd game in terms of bringing a couple of players back into the side that I didn't think needed to come straight back in. I think there's an entire Arsenal fan base that would stand behind my first point of saying Granit Xhaka coming back in, having not played since he was out for 2 months with a knee ligament injury and has trained well. So apparently that's enough for him to do 90 minutes. And when he clearly looked like he just wasn't, certainly 60 minutes in, you could see that the guy wasn't match fit. He was absolutely gassed. And you just think there's a guy in Sambi that would give you that. Hell, El Neni, he'd give you that kind of movement. If we just brought him in, just somebody who even just isn't on a yellow card, because they can just go in there. Decore runs at them again. Right, see you later, sweetheart. Stops them a lot closer to the Everton goal rather than giving away a dangerous free kick. And we've seen what we've been like with set plays. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. With how we defend set plays. And that was the big thing for me. It was just, there was a lot of odd decisions in there. Again, Kieran Tierney, I'm not sure he should have been the first name back on. I think the weeks he's had out have been good for Arsenal. I don't think we look right with him on the left-hand side with Martinelli. I thought the stuff I'd seen from Tavares, even against Man United, I just saw something that was just a bit more promising there. I think the fact he's an outball for Ramsdale helps a lot more. Tierney just doesn't have the aerial prowess that Tavares has to then be an option for Ramsdale. And I think that for me, those are the big two things that I'm like, why? Why are those the players that you decide to bring in now? But I don't know if either Kris wants to come in on their thoughts of those two players.
So with the Xhaka thing, I could kind of understand why he'd want to put Xhaka and Partey in alongside of each other, because when they were both fit last season, what we got was, it was almost a Granit Xhaka not making it the Granit Xhaka show, and it was Thomas Partey was the main man. The problem we've got is that Thomas Partey is massively out of form. And so what we've got then is we've got someone like Granit Xhaka that's then trying to turn it into the Granit Xhaka show, because Thomas Partey is so far out of form that it's just not working. I'm totally with you. And I think one of the things, so I'm not in the get Arteta's head on a pike and burn it and then send it up to the four corners of the country type stuff. But I'm not there yet. But the thing that really hits me with a game like that is, as a coach, there's ways in which you impact a football match. You pick the side and you get the side prepared, but then they've just got to execute. But then in game, the next ways as a coach that you impact a game is through making changes, making tactical changes, making switches, making substitutions. We waited until 70 minutes, and even that was an injury before we even did anything. And that for me was a really depressing thing, because I want to like Arteta. I want to agree with his style of football and the structure that he sets the team out. But what I saw on Monday night was a revert back to the old school football, and then a kind of a shrug shoulders when that wasn't working after the first half, because we were terrible in the first half and he did nothing. Like Arsene Wenger side, I don't want to go on about Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger sides, you always knew that if they were shocking the first half, well, we won't be that bad second half. That wasn't what we got on Monday. We got the same, if not worse, in the second half than we did in the first half.
Yeah, it was weird especially when you say with the Wenger side. You know from everything that Wenger has said that he normally just left the players to their own devices to sort out those problems, and without being in the stadium and without being on the wrong side right now of the Amazon cameras that are currently filming what Arteta's doing. What is his team talk like? Is it the similar as Arsenal? And he says, "Sort it out, guys." But I don't think it is that. Kris will probably come in and go,
it's probably an
micromanaging. It's probably this is what's going on here, this is what's going on there. And then Martin Odegaard's got more information in his head than he needed for his GCSEs, and he's just like, what the fuck?
I imagine there's a lot of PowerPoint presentations, Excel spreadsheets, Workday seminars, and the pit crew will be there'll be one member of the pit crew, each player. I'm sure there'll be lots of fascinating stuff that will probably be really interesting, and I'm boring myself just even thinking about it. And Kris is right, under Wenger, the two things you would guarantee you'd get in that era: substitutions at 68 to 70 minutes without fail, and you'd get a team that would try and win the right way or die trying. And I'm not suggesting that going up to Old Trafford and losing 8-2 or losing 6-0 at Chelsea is enjoyable. It's not. But is it any worse? Like if I told you to sit there and watch Everton 2, Arsenal 1 again in full, or Arsenal, Man United 8, Arsenal 2, sure, both would be a big shit sandwich. But would you really enjoy one more than the other? Like, is there really much difference? Other than the fact that you could probably say the 8-2 was a clusterfuck of a mess of a team in a time where we really needed, ironically, to sign. I think that was the window Arteta came, wasn't it? But it's what really struck me about that performance on Monday was I'm again putting it as fairly and balanced as I can. I was just so bored, so bored. The just this horseshoe of doom is just so depressing, and there's a lot of debate at the moment in the Arsenal sort of not even the social media world, just the media world, between the journalists. There's some fraud called Collins who's been talking about this recently. But there's a few people that debate. I think Gunnerblog was talking about it as well, James, and I think Chris Wheatley. There's a few others, and they're talking about this idea of that they don't believe that Arteta is telling them to do these things, and there has to be some responsibility on the players. And there's this sort of argument going around. It's like, they're young players. Who signed these young players? Who is relying on? Sweet Mother of Mary, please have mercy on my soul. Granit fucking Xhaka is still pivotal to how we play football. Just for a second, think about that statement. Just for 1 second, think about that statement. And you hear it like, oh, other managers like him. No, they don't, because no fucker signed him. He was on a plate to Roma and they wouldn't pay the extra 2 million. And yet he is integral to our starting 11. His substitutions in that game absolutely baffled. I genuinely have no idea. The Nketiah thing, don't get me started on Pepe. But why would you bring on a player who wants to leave in January anyway? And if you're going to do it, why put him on the left wing? Honestly.
I'd say with Nketiah, and I'm annoyed that the fact he came on, but he was one of the best players for us in that second half. And I think that's the problem. It's a bit like, because I want to say Eddie Nketiah shouldn't be wearing an Arsenal shirt for us anymore because I don't think he's good enough. But on the day, he surprised me. It was almost to the level that he impressed me. He would have had an assist if Odegaard knew how to shoot with his right foot, which I think is when we're talking about the glaring misses of that day, Odegaard gets off scot-free because he should be scoring that. Eddie should be scoring his chance. No, you can't blame him for that.
Because he's in the shop window, isn't he? He's playing for his future, and I don't blame him at all.
I think
I'll happily take him. So
it's the mixed messages, isn't it? That's the problem. We're getting mixed messages here because he's basically torched Pepe. So all right, if you're torching him, then why is he even on the bench? Why don't you just torch him like they torched Mesut Ozil and we're like, you're not even in the squad, mate. You're not even getting a number. See you later. But that's not happening. Like 1 week, Maitland-Niles is playing against Watford, and then like we never see him again. And you've got like this is bizarre. It's like Eddie Nketiah has come out literally this last week, and it's not Eddie Nketiah that's come out; it's his people that's come out. So and when Sky Sports News are reporting it with such authority, his agent has gone to them. So Arsenal should be taking the view that okay, that's absolutely fine, mate. You're U23s now, so enjoy that. Because if we're not going to get any money from you, we'll go to tribunal and you can U23 it for the rest of the season, and we'll have to sort our solutions somewhere else. But we're getting these mixed messages. The stuff around, like you said, Kris, around Granit Xhaka, like even if he's integral to the team, everyone can see that he's knackered. He was knackered after 60 minutes, and that's entirely understandable because he's just spent 3 months out. But you've got people like Sambi, that's played really well, one of the best players against Newcastle. So everyone's thinking he's got more minutes in him. Like you could easily make that swap, Sambi for Xhaka on 60 minutes, and people would not be saying today, even if we'd lost, people would not be saying Granit Xhaka, what a nightmare. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, Granit Xhaka was partially at fault, but it's not his fault for the second goal, but not his fault because he basically got ghosted past because he was absolutely knackered when Damari Gray's is putting the ball in. But I think it's those mixed messages that's starting to turn me against Arteta because, and this feels like this exact same time last year. I thought he'd got out of that. I thought he played his get out of jail card in Emile Smith-Rowe. I thought he's realised it. I thought he's got his team, he's got his players, he's got a system, and he's not going to revert back to the Granit Xhaka plays it out wide to Kieran Tierney, who goes down the line or comes back into the centre half and Gabriel, who then goes back out to Granit Xhaka, who maybe goes sideways to Partey. There's just not enough progressive play when you've got people like Granit
That's
Xhaka.
why I enjoyed the 5 or 6 games that we've had Tavares in at left back. He's a proper, he's like a Wenger defender is Tavares. He's not great going backwards. He's a bit like he is Gael Clichy. He knows how to beat a man. You could see there was more dynamism. He wasn't just a one-stop shop of okay, we've got Kieran Tierney, and it seems to be revert to type. As you say, Granit Xhaka comes back in the side. I thought some of the football we have played while Xhaka has been out, his absence was a large part of the 8-game unbeaten run that we had. As you might say that Arteta had his Emile Smith-Rowe period. I think we've just seen the back end of the Aaron Ramsdale era of where Ramsdale came in. We had all these games unbeaten. It saved Arteta, or at least proved to some of us that Arteta or whomever spotted Aaron Ramsdale spotted something in there that clearly you couldn't see from his performances at Sheffield United or at Bournemouth, or even some of the Bournemouth coaching staff didn't see, because they laughed at Sheffield United when they came in and offered, I think it was £20 million for him to buy them from him. They didn't see that player in him at all. And now we've seen him. We're going, okay, he's the second coming of Neuer, or a player of that kind of echelon.
But why are we seeing that, Josh? Like, ask yourself this question. I know it's a small point in the grand scheme of things. Our player of the month for the last 2 months has been our goalkeeper.
And I think he's been that good.
He's needed to be that good.
He's needed to be that good. But I think it's not only, we're not talking about necessarily the great saves. I mean, the save against Leicester was incredible. I think one thing that would help in some form of competition is if we had anything close to a functioning striker. We can talk about the elephant in the room, but he was dropped from the Everton side because of his awful performances, comes back on, is given an opportunity in the last minute, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and you can see the reason why he spent 89 minutes on the bench, because
There's more to that, though, isn't there? Do you think?
Is there? I don't know if there's any more than... Well, let's put it this way. My current theory, so current tinfoil hat, just get that one out, has got the African Cup of Nations written on it. That's one of my hats of saying the guy isn't going to get another chance at another AFCON because he's, 34 now? It would probably still be...
Is he? He's 31, 32, isn't he?
Aubameyang?
Yeah, I don't think he's 34. I may be wrong.
34?
I don't think he's that
Go on, Danny.
32 and a half.
Okay,
32 and
older
a
than I
half.
thought, to be honest. Yeah.
So I
It's
think
the
that's
hair makes him look older.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Hairline.
It's a bit like me, isn't it? Everybody thinks I'm 40. But it's that kind of thing that we've got this guy who he should be up there every month as one of the top 3 options for Player of the Month, should have been, but he just hasn't been. And Ramsdale has saved points for us. We can talk about the Leicester save, but I think it's what he's done generally in his all-round play. The passing out from the back. You get Leno in there again, we'd look as shaky as hell. Wait for the cup competitions to come round and Leno goes back in goal. That's the true change that you've seen in this side now that Ramsdale's back in it. Now, I thought, Chris, the point you were going to allude to was the reason why Ramsdale's looks so good is because he doesn't spend that much time training with Arteta.
Well, there is that.
That might be something in there.
There might be something. And of course, let's not forget he's an Arteta signing, therefore he gets to play every week. We all know that people who are not signed by Arteta are not considered to play ever, so that's fine.
Well, we talk about it in Martinelli. I think he right now is very much the kind of symbol of how Arsenal are playing.
Oh, he did something every game.
No, do you know what Martinelli is a symbol of? Martinelli is a symbol of Mikel Arteta sitting there going, okay, so Alba's shite at the moment, that's fine. Laka's clearly also struggling for confidence and he's coming to the end of his contract and playing like that. Balogun's off to somewhere like Derby or somewhere to rescue somebody, and Ketty's got... Oh, there's that Brazilian. Oh, he'll do. Let's stick him in. No, that's fine. Yeah, he is. I love Gabby. He's great. He's fantastic. I've always said it. No. You barely looked at the kid since the start of the season when he was very unfairly. And I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's the next Anelka, but he's good. And whatever you think of him, he works his arse off. And he gives you that thing that we don't have from any of our other strikers. It's the ability to actually move and work the channels and show a bit of aggression. He was forgotten. He was put in the box marked Calum Chambers, Pablo Marie, Balogun.
Pablo who? Never heard of him.
Exactly. all of the Brentford box. He was tarred with that brush in terms of players that have never been seen again. And unfortunately, as I say, I'm not saying that he hasn't worked his way into the team. I'm not completely throwing Mikel under the bus here, but I don't think he's got any choice but to play him because all of our other strikers are so off form. It's a shot to nothing, isn't it? It's that.
Well, plus the fact that he brought him on as a sub and he scored, and Arteta went, "See, I'm a fucking genius. You play every game now, son."
There you go. And that goal doesn't. Chris is a coach. You don't score that goal unless you're confident in training. That goal he got against Newcastle is not a goal that you can just throw a guy in and go on, mate, go and crack on. Maybe at our level, at Sunday League level, yeah, sure, every dog has his day. But generally, you've got to have a good technique to take that sort of finish. That's not something that you just go, I'll just swing the strike on and hope for the best. That was a sign of a player who's training well, who's confident, who's ready to take his chance. And whether he's given 5 minutes or 20 minutes, he took his chance. And he's rightfully in that side at the moment. But as we've said with these non-negotiables, if Gabriel Martinelli's wife posts a picture of something that Arteta doesn't like, as is seemingly the case with Maitland-Niles, I don't know if you've seen that that's gone around.
No.
All of a sudden, probably one of our pit crew who's monitoring social media developments, and he's banished to the stands. For those who don't know, Maitland-Niles girlfriend, I think it was, posted an Instagram story which basically said, "Still can't understand how you can be man of the match one game and drop for the next. Blows my mind," or something like that. And mysteriously, we haven't seen Ainsley since. And on one hand, you could say, based upon what happened in the summer, maybe Ainsley could do with just, maybe just putting the phone down. But he doesn't have control over what his partner messages. Like, under this dictatorship, because that's what it is, you can fart the wrong way in training, and apparently you don't get a game. I thought it was the other club in North London that had a dictator for a manager, but I'm not so sure anymore.
Chris, can I ask a question? Is there anything that could happen that would turn you around?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, in terms of the manager.
Yeah.
I just want him to stop being. I want him to stop thinking he's Pep Guardiola, and I want him to stop trying to make a point, and I want him to just. I want him to learn, Chris. I really want him to learn. You mentioned the Xhaka thing. Do you remember when Thomas Partey was rushed back in that Tottenham game? How well did that go? Well, I know what we'll do. Literally a year later, we'll just put Granit out there. And again, like speaking from you as a coach, you know what it's like, mate. Saturday night or Friday night, whenever you play Saturdays, don't you? But the night before your game on a weekend, one of your, whether everybody else agrees or not, one of your best players texts you and says, "Oh, Gaffer, I've my hamstrings all right. I'm fine. I'm good to go, Gaffer. I'm good to go." You go, "Yeah, all right. I'll stick you in. But you do that because he's one of your best players, because it's at our level. If your job was on the line, you probably wouldn't do that, would you? You'd be like, "Well, I'm gonna play the players that are fit. I'll introduce you gradually." How could he not learn from that situation? If Granit pulled up after 6 minutes of that game, that would be a massive story. He got through the game fine, and it's very clear to me that he would have come to the manager and said, "I'm ready to go. Stick me in. I'm good to go, Gaffer. Put me in." Well, okay. So Granit gets back in, but Kieran Tierney returns from injury, nowhere to be seen. And that's not a knock at Tavares at all. He took his chance and did well. But so why was Kieran Tierney not brought back in? So to answer your question, there's a lot of things, and like you, I've said this from the beginning, and I'll continue to say it. I want to like him. I really do. As a player, I loved him. I'm still famous on this podcast for a certain quote back in the day. But he's, I like that he's passionate. I like that he cares, because he clearly does. And I tweeted this the other night. I do not doubt at all that he loves the club. I don't doubt that he wants to succeed, because this, let's be honest, this is his big job, isn't it? If he doesn't crack this, he's not going to manage a big club again. And I don't doubt that he is trying to learn. What I have an issue with is that everything about Arsenal is so tied into this manager from Josh Kroenke downwards. Everything is invested in Arteta. And it feels like he can continue to make the same mistakes, alienate the same players, make the same clueless tactical errors, and there's always something, And
it's that kind of.
The only other thing, I'll just wrap on this, Josh. Yeah. Sorry. The only other thing I was going to mention is somebody brought this up on another podcast, and I never even thought about this until today, and it actually piqued my interest, and I thought, that's a great point. Who on earth went to Arteta and said, "Do you know what would be really good, Mikel? Do you know what would be a really great idea? When you go to that Arsene Wenger thing, tell the fans that you're desperate for him to come back. That won't make you look weak at all." Who on earth advised him? Don't get me wrong, I would love to see Arsene back in the stadium. I think we all would. Well, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us who've got a brain would love to see him back in the stadium. But how weak does that make him look when he's basically on his knees going, "I'd love Arsene to come back because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." You know what I mean? And I've never looked at it like that before, but it made me think earlier on, and I went, actually, that's a bit of a cry for help, isn't it?
I mean, it's less of a cry for help than, not using your old manager's parking space. As weak mentality managers go, that one. I think Arteta does park in his parking space. But yeah, I was going to say, it's one of those things that sometimes the most intelligent thing to do is say nothing, is to not answer the question, but as we were kind of saying with Arsene, the mystery around how a problem was solved into how did you how did you get the team to come back together, or what happened here? And sometimes Arsenal would just go, as kind of mentioned, or I mentioned already, I just told them to go out and do their stuff. I left them to their own devices. And I think that's the kind of thing that Arteta's going to learn at some point. And I think all managers do it, because obviously right now he's trying to build a reputation. So of course everything is his idea. If it's good, yeah, I told them to do X, Y, and Z, because it gives them that kind of foundation, because every manager, especially continentally on the continent, has a philosophy. And if he wants to be a manager, and he seems to be a manager that will move around Europe when he's got the choice. As a player, he was fairly nomadic in terms of which leagues he went to. I think he's trying to establish for his next employer, because, as we're saying, some of the results, and there's been times where you'd think this is the time the Cronkies are going to snap with him, and it's see you later, that he needs to be able to show his body of work. And
so it's all about him, mate. So Arsenal Football Club
is right now
as a CV. I mean, that's embarrassing.
But then everybody does, don't they? Every job is your CV. If you boil it down to this is a job rather than this is an emotional entity, sporting entity that I support, and I look at it purely emotionally, that's not what they're here for. We know it was players. We've seen.
Do you think Antonio Conte's gone to Spurs to enhance his reputation? He's gone because nobody else gave him a job.
I think Antonio Conte's slightly different, because we're talking about a manager who has already got a foundation of work. It's like a Roma signing Jose Mourinho because of what Jose did at Man United. No, or at Spurs. They're doing it because they're trying to get back the guy that a couple of seasons ago he did this. Right now, Arteta's got fuck all on his CV. If you go 2 years back, he was putting up the cones for Pep. Exactly.
That's what worries me. And I just want to pick up really quickly, and I want to ask Kris a question. But Rudy said, and this is not a knock at you, Rudy, because I think you make a completely fair point. I don't know what I'm talking about, and that's perfectly fair, by the way. But fully disagree. After every game, Arteta's saying the right things. He knows what's going wrong. Unfortunately, experienced players don't follow. Rudy, that's his job, my friend. That is his job. I'm so tired of him coming out, and I will admit I have openly mocked him a few times on my Twitter. I'm sorry about that, but I'm frustrated as everybody. But I'm so sick to death of these press conferences, because he talks a brilliant game. He'd make a fantastic politician. He says all the right things. He also, let's not forget, is very, very good at throwing his own team under the bus. Let's not forget that, because he does do that an awful lot, probably too much for me. And that's another thing that other managers who have got experience don't do. They take it on themselves, not on the players. But his wording is brilliant. He's media savvy. His media training is fantastic. But my issue with what Rudy's saying there is, how many more times? How many more times, if we finish 8th at the end of the season, is he going to come out then and say, yeah, it's totally on me, I signed these players, we have to work harder, we have to do better? It's too late. It's the same soundbite over and over again. And I was going to ask you, Kris, and this is not in any way mean to throw you under the bus. Can you tell me the last time that you got some proper joy from watching this team? And I mean, like, you really sat back and went, that's my team. Can you tell me the last time where we genuinely played really well?
First half against Tottenham, 3-0. Absolutely brilliant. It was good football. It was structured, good pressing. It was a side that had a purpose, an identity, and a drive. The challenge that we've got is that we're seeing that in fits and starts, and that is, we've got only small pockets of data that show us the potential of this Arsenal side, which is why when I talk about I want for it to click, every time I feel like it's about to click, it just falls apart. It's like a house of cards, and that's my biggest issue. And the other thing is that I'm starting to realise, particularly when you look at some of the stats this season, I don't actually know what type of team we are. I was just looking at FBref earlier and looking at some stats. Like, we have the second lowest number of pressing behind Man United in the entire league. So we're not a team that presses the ball. We can all see that. We all kind of know that. But we also have the second lowest number of tackles that we make. So we're not a side that's making tackles. We're bottom of the league for tackles won tackles won and we're third worst for crosses. So we're not crossing the ball. We don't get the ball out wide and put it in. We don't press. We're not an intense tackling side. What's weird is we've got the 6th highest number of touches in the final third. Now that one really baffled me.
That's all them crosses to no one.
Well, yeah, I think this is what Kris is talking about. It's the from defence, from the first third to the second third. That's when most of the time I think actually we're sort of all right. And then we get to the final third, and it's like, what do we do here, lads? And I do think that that's when we're looking at the Pepes, the Aubameyangs, the Lacazettes, Odegaard not quite clicked mainly, and we're relying on essentially 2 young kids who are just out of teenagers and 19 and 20-year-olds, or just 20, 21-year-olds that we're expecting every single game now to be successful. Whereas 10 years ago, we'd bring in a 19, 20-year-old. Even like when Iwobi broke onto the scene, he was still surrounded by other good players. So when he had a dip, then you could say, I'll just haul Iwobi off and give him a few games sitting on the side. But he can't do that at the moment. And that's the biggest issue, is that final third.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think it's what's coming with Martinelli right now gives you a good idea of what Arsenal are like as a side. With Man United, we thought he was absolutely superb. And the next game against Everton, against arguably lesser opposition, he just wasn't, he was putting out maybe a 6 out of 10 performance compared to the 8 that we saw against United. And then it was just kind of talking about the kind of build-up play. It's then the problem is that movement of the forward line. And obviously there's a great thing that we can talk about what Pep does and what Arteta does in terms of build-up. We're fine in terms of we can get the ball to that final third, and then there's an issue. And that's where I don't like Xhaka or Tierney being in that side, because they're one-dimensional in the balls that they're going to play. They might be one-dimensional because there's no movement, so their only option is knock it down. Xhaka gets the ball, he plays that perfect ball in, and to be fair, that's how we scored. Was Xhaka had the ball, he played it down the channel to Kieran Tierney, who ran onto it, crossed it straight in for Odegaard, who made a decent bit of movement and scored. And we've seen Tierney do. That's how half his assists have come. Is that exact same pattern of play? I think the problem is that when Tierney is in the side, he is such a big figure in our creative play, or has been. And we can look back to Unai Emery for that. He's been such a central figure to how we create. It's a bit like the issue we had with Mesut Ozil, when Mesut Ozil didn't turn up to games. That we play all these passes into him and it's pointless because he's just not necessarily up to it, or the rest of the team isn't at his speed.
We don't create.
We don't create because there's no movement, because you need movement to create, right?
And we haven't got any pace in this team. Well, we have. It's on the bench, but
we certainly have. But you could also, I say, with pace, is you don't need pace in a side. You need agility, certainly, but if your side, you can either have a team full of quick players or a team full of slow players is just as effective as a super quick team if the build-up's right and they're very clever in their short, kind of agility. And we don't necessarily see that. When was the last time you saw, Aubameyang run off his marker?
I don't think he can.
That short little burst of pace. We could talk it back to Martinelli as well. We saw that against Everton, didn't he? He had one chance off the shoulder of a player and he was gone every single time because he's pushing for it consistently. And there's something about it that we want to push that in for him. We want to be playing those balls. But
the only time we got Aubameyang in behind running onto balls was when, ironically, when we got the success under Arteta and winning that FA Cup. When, let's be honest, and again, I had the Arteta shaded spectacles on as well. Let's be honest, we shithoused our way to an FA Cup. We were god awful to watch, but we were effective. And we gave him a pass back then because he came in and he basically made us hard to beat. And he made us that low block, counter-attacking team, which heavily relied on Aubameyang. Arguably, the reason we relied on him so much then, we've arguably now, that's cost us because we got so much out of him in that season. He's almost blown out since. and the longer this form goes on, I'm sorry to say, the more people are going to look at that contract and go, how much of this was the club trying to make a statement about not losing a big player, and how much of this was, I'm not one of these people that subscribes to the idea that he isn't trying or that he doesn't, want to try. I think he does. I do. I just think that this system, same with Lacazette, is not built for the strikers we have. The system we have arguably is built more for a Giroud than it is for an Aubameyang and a Lacazette. We bought in, I don't have the numbers to hand, Danny can dig them out if he wants, but we signed one of Lyon's most prolific strikers in their history in Lacazette. And ever since we signed him, except briefly under us, and obviously when he came in then, he has been played as a deep-lying playmaker number 10. He's never been a number 10 in his life. I mean, he wore 10 at Lyon. But you get my point. He was a striker. He was a player who played on the shoulder, and in those days, he looked sharp, he looked lean. I know you joke about
it. Like the new Ian Wright.
Yeah, I know, Josh, you joke about his big backside, and he has. But he was brought in to be like the Sylvain Wiltord of this team. The player that would come in 10, 15 games a season. Sometimes he'd start, sometimes he wouldn't, but he'd offer you that little injection, that predatory instinct in and around the penalty area. And when he wasn't scoring, Aubameyang was. And those two strikers, you could play anyway. You could play 4-2-3-1 and play Alba wide. You could play 4-4-2. You could play 4-3-3. And we've got, as I say, we've got two strikers now. One striker who doesn't know if he's a left winger, a striker, or a bench player, who's on a massive contract. But we've got another player who, he still hasn't had his future confirmed. Let's be honest. We're running his contract down, and I freely admit Laka isn't the striker we signed. He isn't, and I hope he does leave because he deserves better than we're treating him. He deserves one last shot.
I think with Lacazette, we need to have a look at his output even under Wenger. His best output in a league season is under Arteta.
Yeah,
it was last season.
He was never worth the money we paid for him because Laka was never a 50 million striker. But that's not his fault. He was a player that if we'd have got, we could have got him for 25, 30 million the summer before.
But wanted to wait another season.
Yeah, and that's on us, and that's. And sometimes you can.
J-Rob. I know you're saying a bit. I can get other people's comments up. J-Rob has given us €2. He says, Kris, tell Pepe to move on. He doesn't deserve this. I only turned the donation things back on because we just paid 78 quid to get all the Stream Star stuff again. And we turned it off because last year we paid, I think, 180 quid for it. But then they were doing a Black Friday special, 78 quid, ding dong, ing. So cheers, J-Rob. Carry on, Kris.
So in short, all you freeloading scum, dig deep, all right? Don't use Christmas as an excuse, okay? You've all got money. We've seen it. Come on, cough it up. I'm joking. But generously, because I've got Christmas presents to buy. But yeah, it's and I want to ask Kris on this one. Let's open that Pepe box, shall we, Kris? Because where I stand on it, and taking aside my enjoyment of French football, because if you're playing bingo at home, there's your first cross in the box. He's another classic example of a player that, albeit this is not on Mikel, he didn't sign him, but he was signed. Thank you, Danny. He was signed for the wrong club to play the wrong. He was signed in a system that doesn't suit him. But what is going on? He hasn't started since, I think it's the end of October. He isn't getting minutes. His face when Nketiah came on the other night, I mean, and what do we get from Mikel when he's asked about him? He won't be moved on in January. We want to get the best out of him. Well, I'd love to know, Mikel, how we're going to get the best out of him if you don't give him any minutes. Where do you stand, Kris? Because if nothing else, he gives us a goal threat, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's over the last two seasons, he's been one of our most prolific players, both goals and assists. I've always been a fan of Pepe. There's a lot of people that find him a bit Marmite because his touch sometimes can be a bit erratic. But what you want Pepe inside the penalty box arriving. So if you're going to play a game where you're getting your fullbacks out into the corners and cutting the ball back, you need Pepe arriving, and he'll just slot those balls away all day. He's not a guy that wants the ball at his feet and then wants a million touches like Emile Smith-Rowe. You can give the ball to him deep and he'll be fine. Its system is an issue. I wonder if something's happened his last game against Crystal Palace, he was terrible. But I can't remember. I heard it on a podcast. I can't remember which podcast, but somebody said, which was really, really accurate, actually. They said that Pep Guardiola does this with players. He will, what seems like torture player like Sterling or Bernardo Silva. Like if you remember beginning of the season, he was saying, yeah, Bernardo Silva wants to leave. If we get the right sort of bid, then maybe, but whatever it is. Bernardo Silva is playing every week now, having not started at the beginning of the season. And I just wonder if this is Arteta saying to Pepe, no, I'm just going to bench you for a while. Maybe it is the ego. Maybe it is the ego. And it is an Arteta approach, which is I'm going to just leave you out, not even look at you. I'm going to bring you along to games and stuff, but I'm not even going to look at you. And then he'll probably give him a chance. I would have thought he'll give him some sort of chance within the next 3 games because we've got, well, maybe not Leeds away because we know that Pepe didn't have the happiest of times there last season. But I do wonder if he'll give him some minutes and then almost say to Pepe, right, well, now it's your chance. You've got 20 minutes here. You've got to prove it. And I don't know whether or not that's the right approach to a player like Pepe because he feels like he needs somebody that needs a big cuddle. Pepe needs. I feel like Pepe's a player that probably needs a big cuddle quite a lot, and
a side built around him, around his qualities.
And I don't think Arteta's a sort of. He's not a cuddler. He's not a snugger.
You imagine the what was the. And again, I know this is a bygone era. It's going back, but you imagine Pepe in the Invincibles system, the freedom that those 2 wide players had to come in from the wide areas. Imagine him in that sort of system. He would thrive. That was the Lille system that he was playing in. That was that ability to play anywhere from right, left, central. He was scoring free kicks. He was assisting. He was second assisting. He just provided. And there is an element of chaos to him. There absolutely is. And like I say, I do have to stress once again, he was not a Mikel Arteta signing. I actually don't even think he was an Arsenal signing. He was a Ralph Sanyehi signing. He was a statement, and we all know where that went allegedly. But but he and I genuinely think it was in an era, wasn't it, where we were chucking money around because we were losing players and we had to make a statement. Oh, one of the most informed players in France. Well, we can go and get him. We can't maybe get the La Liga informed player or the Bundesliga, but we can get the next best thing and the guy that everyone's talking about.
I think because we'd missed out on Malcolm the season before, hadn't we? And we didn't want to miss again. I know it's another one that ended up at Barcelona, but then Pepe was linked with exactly the same kind of caliber of sides that Malcolm was. But then, and we all felt aggrieved when he went to Barcelona. Just turns out we've ended up with the next Malcolm.
And the point that Kris made is a good one about Pep. The difference is, because Pep also did it with centre-back, Sane and Laporte. He left Laporte out, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Stones.
The difference is, with when you're Pep Guardiola, you're a massive fraud. But secondly, there's another one for your bingo card. He's got, if he doesn't like a player, he just says, I don't like him, I want a new one. Give me a new toy. And they go and buy him. If Bernardo Silva had have left in August, he would have just brought back in Riyad Mahrez, brought back in Raheem Sterling. If Laporte left, he would have just brought through, Nathan Ake. Has he played for Man City ever? No. But if he lost one of those centre-backs, he can bring him in and get a tune out of him. Oh, yeah, he's great. We've always liked. They've got unlimited wealth. And they've got players that, I say, if Sterling's form drops, Mahrez's picks up. And I think somebody said in the chat earlier on, Arsenal don't need strikers. It's the modern game. You don't need a striker. You don't need a striker if you can afford the players like Man City have got, who can come in, or Bayern Munich, they've got 4 different wingers. They can rotate any 4 of them. We haven't. We've got young players who are still developing. We all know how talented Saka is, but let's hold our hands up here. He hasn't been brilliant all season. He's had good spells, bad spells. Smith Rowe, again, he's been brilliant at times, and he's also gone massively missing in games at times as well, because that's what young players do. Martinelli, the same. We haven't got a player in Pepe's age range to say, well, Pepe's not doing it in training, so we're going to bring in this guy. We haven't got that. You can't just chuck in, as I say, Martinelli and Saka and say, well, you need to keep performing at the level you have been, because the young players, and they just won't do that.
I think that's the other thing that we're missing as well when we're talking about the quality of, the players that we're talking that Pep has left out, in his way of doing it, is that I don't see that kind of fight from Pepe. I don't see that quality in Pepe like Bernardo Silva. He hasn't got it, and he may have had it. Well, he may have had it in Ligue 1, and maybe some things when he came over has made him decline in the ability he had back then. Because other players can peak at different times. I don't think he's the player that we need. I'm happy that he's not coming on because I don't think he gives us anything extra. And the stuff he gives us, I think we can get elsewhere in the squad.
So what? Sell him in January for 10 million?
The reason why I think Arteta wouldn't sell him is because he's not going to be in the fucking continent in January.
And he can't sell him. There isn't a market.
And we can't sell him.
There isn't a market. It's gone. Like
it's gone. Exactly. This was the COVID market. We could blame it. I think the worst thing to come out of COVID is the fact that West Ham started buying sensibly. That was the biggest issue because we could have got rid of so many players to them over the years. They'd have taken Aubameyang on this current form for £20 million.
Jared Bowen on our right wing right now. I mean,
I think we've got a question about would you take Mikel Antonio as our striker?
No, because we play him at fucking DM.
I mean, that is a player who has played everywhere and anywhere for West Ham, isn't he, under Moyes? There he goes from Julian Salmondo. And I think it's that kind of thing that we don't necessarily need a striker of that. I don't know what you guys think about Antonio generally. I think he's got all the attributes, but I think we'd want a flashier name.
Yeah, but then we're being
Arteta players that play in one position. If they play in too many positions, Arteta gets confused. He doesn't want them to be able to do too many things.
But would you, like Kris, would you go for a Calvert-Lewin? Because I would much rather go for a.
What's your name of French players? Jonathan David.
He's Canadian. You tit. Do your research. If I had a choice right now, and this is the question I'll ask you, if I said to you next summer you can lose both Laka and Aubameyang, which is that would be my personal choice. Sorry, Laka, I love you dearly, but you deserve better than this shit. I would lose both of them, and I'd replace them with one marquee signing, i.e., I always say the Anelka signing, the striker that's young enough but good enough that you can basically build your next 5 years around him. He's the starting striker. He's your number 9. He's young. He's got bags potential. You put him in. And then bring in another player, and again, I always use this name, but a Double Suka. Somebody who's experienced, a bit weathered, who's a bit more of a target man, who can come on and do a job, but will give you that sort of, 10, 15 games a season, whatever that might be. What would you do? Like, would you keep either of the two strikers we've got? Or would you replace them both? And if you did replace them both, would you go youth like Arteta seems to, or would you actually go for a name like Josh said?
I am not fussed on names. I'm actually not fussed on age profiles unless it's either end of the spectrum. For me, the type of player that we need is somebody who is strong in hold-up play, because the way that we build up, you want somebody. You can just imagine a scenario. We pick the ball up from defence. We're playing the ball out to someone like Thomas Partey. He wants to play a progressive ball forward. He looks for somebody maybe on the diagonal to Odegaard, who's found a pocket of space. Odegaard's looking up, and he's now turned, and he's looking for somebody to make those channel runs in, those curved runs in behind. That's the type of striker that we want. That 3 years ago, Aubameyang would do that. The other types of build-up plays that I think about is when we need somebody the ball to stick to them. The type of thing where Ramsdale is pinging those balls in, and you've got a striker that can control it and then release it off and then make the run. So I think I'm asking for a bit of I don't know whether it's a unicorn type player, because they've got to be athletic. They've got to have pace and be willing to run into those channels, spinning behind, but they've also got to be able to hold the ball up, have a physical enough body strength to be able to hold off the type of centre halves you come up against in the Premier League. And is that Calvert-Lewin? Maybe. Is that that chap from Fiorentina that my mate Giles always goes on about?
It's Dusan Vlahovic.
Is he that sort of player? I don't. Can he adapt to the Premier League? Don't know. Haven't seen enough of him. Wouldn't pretend to be some sort of Amdram scout or anything. But yeah, that's the type of thing that we need. And Aubameyang is not that, because he's only one of those, or he used to be one of those, which was he'd be able to run in behind. And Lacazette can occasionally hold the ball up, but we're not getting enough from him. And games like the Everton game shows that he'd rather play deep in his own half or shunted out to the left wing, which is not where we need him.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing we saw at the summer, was the players that we signed, albeit they were young, some of them were more of, we were signing this style of player. It was more about the type and what they were bringing, necessarily about them being a name. I'm thinking Tomiyasu is the cheerleader for this particular group and particular point. Ramsdale as well, in terms of, wasn't a big name, fits an age profile potentially, maybe a bit of resale value, but also he's got that kind of, he fits the team perfectly. I think we've all seen Tomiyasu's come in and we were a better side immediately as soon as he came in, and that seemed to be more like a player we were thinking about, rather than, where we say, oh, we're just going to end up going and buying a striker and then, oh, we'll give it to the manager and the manager can work out how he fits that striker into his system. There seems to be some actually considered thought to players that are coming into the club right now. The opposite of the Pepe era. That wasn't, as Kris said, he wasn't considered. He wasn't a considered thought of how is Unai Emery going to get this into his side. Even as Unai has said, I wanted Wilfried Zaha because I already thought how I'd get that player into my side. And then instead he ends up with a player who plays on the complete opposite flank. I think in terms of strikers, going out with names as well, we don't need to pitch right at the top. I think, Kris, you were talking about the kind of unicorn kind of player. The attributes we're kind of talking about, you could get from a Danny Ings if you're talking for your Davor Suker kind of level. He's only going to give you probably 20 or so games a season because of his injury record. But then you sign a younger striker that can work with that. What a name that I'm currently getting and thinking about, and I'm sure because he's going to thrive under the new manager, Ollie Watkins, another kind of player that could do that job for us, fits that kind of profile. If they kick on as well, you're going to be banding them in the kind of same kind of names as, maybe not necessarily Haaland, but he's in that kind of tier of striker because of, again, age profile, knows the league fairly well. That's my caveat on Vlahovic as well, is that Serie A strikers don't necessarily travel too well outside of Serie A. I'm sure all of us would have cried for Kieran Immobile to step out on the Anfield, the Emirates, but he's shown he is a striker.
Me, Jeff.
Well, as soon as when he went to Dortmund, you went, that's a fucking coup. When he went to Atletico Madrid, you're like, they've fucking done it again, haven't they? Brought in another striker. Where's he ended up back at? Serie A. It's only place he could score goals.
I think you have to caveat that slightly. I hate to go full Welsh here, but I think John would tell you it's not so much Serie A strikers don't travel, it's Italian Serie A strikers don't travel well. I think there's plenty of Serie A strikers that have done well in other leagues, and the one thing that Vlahovic gives you is, like Kris was saying, it's that kind of, rather than say unicorn, I'd say hybrid. Just because unicorns don't exist, and I worry that we would, if Arsenal, if there was ever a club that would try and sign something that doesn't exist, it's Arsenal. So,
but don't we need someone like him to be on the end of the constant Tomiyasu, Tierney, Tavares crosses?
Because again, the most Arsenal thing ever would be we'd go for a big, physical, mobile striker, and then we'd start playing it on the deck. Like you just see it coming, can't you? But the trouble with Vlahovic is that he's now attracting the interest of, the big names in Europe. And unfortunately, let's just be realistic. We've got a massive appeal in terms of our location, in terms of our history. But we're sounding a little bit like, Man United here, aren't we? Like there's only so much. If we don't get back into Europe this year, and in fact, I would push the boat further. I would say if we don't get back into the Champions League this year, I don't think many teams are going to want to come in, because there's plenty of big teams. Barcelona are heading for the Europa League tonight. Barcelona. Like, you know, I mean, there's bigger clubs that are in the same position that we're in. AC Milan is another one, you know, that are just as big in names as us, that are in the second tier competition, that other clubs will look at and go, okay, so I've got a choice. I can go to Arsenal, who've been out of Europe for 2 seasons now, and probably will just about limp out of the group stage, maybe, and that'll be about it. Or I can go to a transitioning Barcelona, or, you know, a rebuilt Man United under Rangnick, or an AC Milan that's on the up, or, you know, that's who we're competing with at the moment. And okay, Barcelona is skin, fine, but there are other clubs that I think Vlahovic would probably look at now and go, nah, actually, I'd rather take my chances at a club that's middle tier, and that's not even factoring in Man City. You know, if they suddenly decide they actually fancy a striker, you know, they might go and get the fraud from down the road. Well, if they go and get him, then they need a striker. And unfortunately, they're probably going to, if they sell Kane, they've got a lot more money than we have, haven't they? You know, so we seem to have some money down the back of the sofa. So that's not an issue. But actually signing a player, would Dominic Calvert-Lewin even want to play for Arsenal? I don't know.
Yeah, of course he would.
Sheffield lad, didn't he? He was at Sheffield with Ramsdale for a while.
Yeah, true. I mean, he probably would, but I'm just saying, you know, do you want to go? And his injury record at the moment is a little bit worrying, isn't it? You know,
I think whichever player, whichever striker we get is gonna have something on their record that we're going to go, doesn't do this, because we're at that level, aren't we, in terms of who we're going to sign? Like you say, a bigger team, a bigger fish right now comes along and we're blown out of the water. Anybody who, you know, Chelsea right now have got, 3 strikers who can't score?
Don't get me started on that certain striker Chelsea have got.
On the one that got tainted by Serie A and has come back and now suddenly doesn't know how to score goals anymore.
That's the one.
That one, or the
no, that one.
The German roadrunner who I did see scored after 2 minutes earlier, and then they drew 3-3
against the Giants of Dynamo Kiev. Oh no, Zenit St. Petersburg.
Zenit.
Rich has just made that very same point, Josh, in the chat about Vlahovic. He could be Juve bound. So again, it would be the most Arsenal thing ever. Juve go, okay, we need to ship out Morata so he can go to Arsenal and we'll take Vlahovic.
Yeah, Morata enjoyed his time in London, didn't he? Yeah.
It's just the most Arsenal signing ever, isn't it? Like,
there is
Chelsea reject.
The one I'm waiting for is I'm hoping Jose Mourinho is driving Roma into the grounds, because they spent a hell of a lot of money over the summer, and there's a striker there that we were pursuing, but we knew full well Chelsea wouldn't sign us any striker that has 2 working legs, or any player.
Oh no, mate.
No, not that one. No. Tammy Abraham is another striker that I think a lot of us had convinced ourselves would be that kind of perfect player for us, or could at least grow.
He's a bit well back there, wasn't he? It could have gone either way, couldn't it?
He's one of those, and that's where we're at right now. You could say the same about Ramsdale. He was either going to be a £20 million flop or a shrewd signing. We're seeing it with Thomas Partey right now. There looks like there's something.
Himself a 4.
Yeah, but that interview talking about PR, who sanctioned him to say that? I mean,
it's about fucking right though.
Yeah, he's spot on. I love the honesty, but you know, other clubs must be thinking that's fucking hilarious. Like that's a Spurs thing to do. Like give an interview and say, yeah, basically, Jeff, I've been shit. Like I mean, it's like, you know, a small club mentality. Like, and there is a bit of a theme here. Let me ask you this one, Chris. Why not? How many players have come to Arsenal in the last, you know, stretch it back to the Unai Emery era if you want. How many players have we signed that are in the club or have been in the club have improved? Forget the academy because they were Arsenal already. How many players have we actually gone out and signed and they've improved under Arsenal regime or under the Arsenal style?
That's quite tough,
isn't it? I can't think of many.
I mean, Aaron Ramsdale, but we've signed him and we didn't really know fully what we were getting.
No. And he was always
stretch.
He was always, to be fair to Ramsdale, he always looked the part, didn't he? It's just there was a few errors and he played for some terrible sides. It was more the money we paid that I think, well, I certainly had an issue with. Yeah. And if you said 24 million, even now, I'd be like, how much? That's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? But I can't think of many players.
Gabriel has improved.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I'm really
Guendouzi, he's improved, but not while he's here. Saliba, not while he's here.
Well, yeah, but to be fair,
Guendouzi improved, really though.
Gabriel has improved, but I would argue more that he's just matured.
Well, he's gone from being an in-out player to being a number one.
Yeah,
but it's going to be difficult for us to name a player that's improved under Arteta that we can't also then attribute that, he might have just gone that good anyway. Because if we're going to suddenly say, Gabriel, he was good, but actually it's not Arteta's reason he's good. I think there's a lot to be said about Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, but
Saka's got so much better.
One of our own academy graduates. Like I think players like that, they will play for the badge regardless.
He's had 2 years under the stewardship of Arteta. He's not got worse. He's got better.
But he's played. He's played every week.
Yeah, Smith Rowe has got better.
Yeah, but again, same example.
Pepe got worse and he was playing. I think Kieran Tierney has got worse under.
I'm not sure I agree on the Pepe. Did he really have? He had that brief spell last season where he was basically our best player, and that's the only run of time he's ever had consistently. And what did he get as a reward for that? Dropped for Willian.
Actually,
he played a game. He played at a game every week.
You can trace his confidence back to that moment, can't you?
It's certainly an issue with his mentality that 6 games, he's playing well.
I can't have that, mate. I can't have that.
There's something not right with him. There's no fighting him.
You go to work tomorrow, Josh, right?
Yeah.
And your boss comes in and he goes, Josh, you're doing a fantastic job, mate. You honestly, you're smashing it. This target's great, brilliant. This target's fantastic. This is Danny. He's going to be doing your job this week. Anyway, I'll see you at lunch. Cheers. How would you feel? How would you feel?
If I'm getting paid the same, I don't give a flying fuck. I got a week off where someone's doing my work for me.
But you take my point.
When you come back, there'll be 2 weeks worth of work to do.
And can we also just focus on Loki's comment, because he's absolutely spot on. Unai Emery gave Saka the opportunity.
Well,
that sounds like Jose. Go on, Chris. Otherwise, I'm going to bring out Jose Mourinho's list of 49 players that he gave debuts to.
With Josh talking about Pepe, Emery also sacked off Pepe. So it's not just an Arteta thing. And Pepe didn't play. I know Ljungberg only had about 3-4 games. Pepe didn't play every single one of those. I think he missed a couple of those games. So that's 3 separate managers. So I don't know this. We don't know this because we don't have any insight. Not until the Amazon documentary comes out next year, of course. But we don't have any insight on what's happening inside the club. But when you've got 3 separate coaches that have done that, you can't fully just say, no, it can't be an attitude thing. You can't say it definitely is an attitude thing, but equally you can't say it definitely isn't an attitude thing. That's the problem.
But again, it comes back to those non-negotiables, doesn't it? If there is an issue with Pepe, and I say I'm not his agent, I don't know, but the man, yeah, I promise, I would be a lot better house than this. Trust me if I was. But this is the same, the same manager who's leaving him out is the same manager that's building his club around the guy who, threw his shirt and captain's armband on the pitch and told us all to fuck off. So again, where's your non-negotiables? Well, but Granit's got a great attitude. Fuck off, has he? Guy's a fucking disgrace.
He didn't tell the fans to fuck off under Arteta's stewardship.
No, but you get
because he wouldn't have come back. Under Arteta,
he shouldn't have been allowed to come
he'd have been run the back. He would have been shot in the back of the head at the back underneath at the Emirates.
Literally,
but that was under Unai Emery. Emery was the one that brought Xhaka back in. What we have seen is Xhaka hasn't been given the captain's armband back straight away, and we're still left with a petulant man-child as captain.
Well, he should never have had the armband in the first place. I think we all agree on that. But it does come back to those non-negotiables. Do you know what would be really fascinating is if one of our starlets came out and said something, would he be benched? Would he bench Saka or Smith? I don't think he would, because he relies on those players far too much. And just on the Thomas Partey thing, before I forget, we signed Thomas Partey when he was at the peak of his powers. He hadn't had an injury his whole career. He comes to Arsenal and he looks like, I don't know what he looks like. He just looks like the shell of his former self. His presence is gone. He doesn't look like doesn't look anywhere near the player we got from Atletico Madrid. And there were teams that were lining up to try and sign him, and we got him in the door.
I'd say the same about Saul that I'm seeing at Chelsea. What's happened to that guy? There's something about being outside of that Simeone side that appears.
I think with Saul, it's more a league thing. Saul is very fitted for La Liga, but Partey was up there with some of the most informed and wanted, desired central midfielders in Europe, and we got him, and he's gone backwards. And I can't help but think that some of it is to do with the system we play and how we deploy him. And the question I'd ask you is if you put Thomas Partey in a midfield with a Kante, with a, trying to think, even, and I never thought I'd ever say this, a Declan Rice, someone like that, and a Calvin Phillips, an athletic, dynamic, proper out-and-out defensive midfielder, but gives you a bit more, than just pinging the ball to the left wing and clattering people for yellow cards every week. I think you see a different Partey. But instead, the apologists will tell you that Xhaka is key to Partey's form. Utter bollocks.
Or is that, I would say with Thomas Partey, is it the issue that he wasn't ever the main man in those midfields? You're thinking at Atletico Madrid, Koke, as you mentioned, we've already mentioned Saul. In terms of, there was always somebody in that midfield that's going to be battling with you. So it's going to make your life a little bit easier. And as we've just mentioned, that's currently in some games, he is carrying his partner or trying to carry his partner whilst trying to get himself back into form. And that's probably why we've seen a decline. Yeah. Or it's the fact that he's come in. He is the big name signing. Arsenal haven't put £50 million or even a signing of that kind of caliber since Granit Xhaka in terms of monetary spend on a central midfielder. We haven't done it in years. Even we're talking about Santi Cazorla being in our midfield. We signed him as a winger. We haven't put that kind of investment in our midfield
Don't mention Santi. I get upset.
At least a decade. And,
you were breathing, Josh. Carry on. I thought you said.
No, that's all right. And I think, with what he's saying, with Sambi being our best central midfielder this season, I'd completely agree. And he's walked the streets from Anderlecht.
I feel like we should all sort of stand up and sing the Canadian national anthem when Jeff comes in. I feel like that's something we should now start doing.
The only one who gets the flag. Shredder was in there earlier. But I was looking at this with Lokonga earlier. I've been really impressed with every aspect of his game is brilliant. I mean, he was the captain of Anderlecht, and he's made his Belgium debut since he signed for us. We had a run of 10 games in a row without defeat, scoring goals, keeping clean sheets. He takes him off against Liverpool when we're 1-0 down. We end up losing 4-0. Plays the next game. We win, I think it was 2-0. And then doesn't play him against Man United, lose 3-2. Doesn't play him against Everton, lose 2-1. He is a magnificent player, and he will run all day long. And I've got no idea why he's dropped him. And
I think it's like Maitland-Niles is we know his level at the moment. There's a reason why Maitland
had done an Instagram.
No, there's a reason why Maitland-Niles plays well against teams like Watford. It's because that's his level, his lower league sides. The reason, if Sambi had stayed on the pitch against Liverpool for any longer, it still would have been the same result. And I think that's why he didn't play Man United, is because he's not at that level yet. And that's the game that you'd rather burn Xhaka in, I'd say, than play Sambi, who's then going to go, well, fucking hell, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to play in the Premier League because every time I step out on the field against the top sides, I'm just a completely cut adrift. I imagine when we play Chelsea in our next fixtures, Sambi won't play that either. But he'll be putting Everton was the game for him, really, because that's the kind of play. Yeah,
you're absolutely spot on. And even if Everton isn't the game, even if he wants to bring Xhaka in, you do exactly the same as what your plan is, which is after 60 minutes, he's going to be knackered. So let's give Sambi that final 30 minutes. And I tell you what, Sambi's not going to get outrun by those midfielders like Xhaka was in that final sort of 30 minutes of the game. But also, Sambi is a more direct, progressive forward passer. Like, he picks the ball up. But you see, I've seen it a few times already. Like, you see him roll the ball. So he'll just shield the ball, let it roll across his body, and then a forward pass. He's always looking for that forward pass. Xhaka looks for forward passes occasionally, but we know where it's going, and that's the problem. Xhaka's we all know one of his strengths is he is a good recycler and turn like possession wise. He's half decent at getting the ball, releasing the ball, finding his man, but it's not penetrative. Like I can't remember lots and lots of penetrating balls that Xhaka does. Sambi does do that, and Thomas Partey does that. So I'd really like to see those two more than what we've seen. There's lots of people that I've seen that have said, "Oh, they're too similar a player. It doesn't quite work." Partey wasn't great against Newcastle, but Sambi was great. Well, let them find their form. They're still only finding out about each other as players. Xhaka and Partey have played together a lot. What happens if Sambi and Partey play together for 20 games? Do we suddenly start to see the building of a partnership there? We don't know, and it's not being given a chance yet.
Yeah, and I don't mind when you were talking about, as you said with Newcastle, that Sambi was great and Partey wasn't that great, because at least you know what you're getting out of Partey, or Partey's out of form. This isn't because we've got a bad player and that is his ceiling, as he can't do it against Newcastle. We expect Partey to have a good game against basically any side of the league. And, as he said, and he's come out, he's not at that level right now. The number 5 is his star rating out of 10 for most games. He's not at that quality at all. So
we're not going to have a choice soon, because Partey goes off to Africa in a couple of nations. So does
El Neni.
And doesn't it speak volumes? Should it not speak sort of like worrying volumes to us all that we're all calling for? Well, I say we're all. Some of us are calling for Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who at pre-season was a right back on his way to Everton, and we're all desperate for him to be in our starting midfield right now. There's people out there that are actively desperate to see Jack Wilshere get a short-term deal. Don't get me wrong, I love Jack, and part of my heart would smile a little bit to see him come home, because he should never have gone. But the man hasn't played at the top level for 4 years, and this is the level we're at now. Instead of going out and saying, okay, we need a robust central midfielder that's going to do a job to the end of the season. A Kim Kallstrom sort of type of signing, maybe with his back intact. But you get my drift. And yet, as Kris said, Sambi comes in, does a great job. I think he's a rough diamond. I think there's a lot of rough edges that need to be ironed out. But do you remember when Kolo Touré broke into our midfield, having been a centre back his whole career? He didn't turn out too bad, did he? And why? Because he was given a chance and he was played, and he was given an opportunity to thrive. Why not play? This manager clearly wants to play young players, so why not give Sambi his legs? And we're playing 1 game a week at the moment. Okay, 2 over Christmas, but we've got no European football. You can't tell me these young players need a rest. Put them in, and if their form doesn't, their form dips, take them out the squad. Ben White's form the last few weeks, sorry, Josh, but it's been fucking abysmal. Still straight in the team every week. Why? Because he's worth 50 million quid and he's an Arteta signing. I mean, and I'm not slating Ben White. I like the guy. He's never a 50 million pound centre half ever. He just isn't. He isn't. I'm sorry. But he's good. He's competent and he'll get better. But his form has been awful the past few weeks, I think. Positionally, his diving in, his decision making, all over the shop.
Gabriel, again, we don't have a big Bill Saliba to come in.
Don't, just don't. I can't.
Josh, have you got an answer for OG there?
What's that? Do I think Arteta was being overly clever, a la Pep, by playing a false 5? I mean, there were certainly fewer than 5 players that turned up against Everton. I don't know. I don't know what Arteta was kind of thinking. I think, actually, it wasn't what Arteta was thinking. It's what Rafa did. It's not necessarily that a manager made a mistake. Rafa Benitez is a fucking good manager.
At his level,
boring, but
he is boring, but he's got more Champions Leagues than a lot of us.
He's very tactically
tactically clever. And I'm saying, I watched, and there's a manager that I would say the uninformed people of the Arsenal fan base would love Graham Potter to be in the dugout. Well, he struggled more against Rafa Benitez in that Everton side. When they were talking about the stats of when Everton last won a game, that was Brighton away. The And Rafa loves playing against those kind of sides, those kind of ticker-tackery, because he's like, right, I know how to fucking deal with this. Bring in the Spanish buses. Before Jose Mourinho even made parking the bus fashionable, Rafa Benitez was doing it with counter-attacking style and having a forward that would, kind of get at defenders. Richarlison having basically scored 3 goals against us if VAR wasn't there, because we know how decisions go against us. I think there's the glass half full or glass half empty way of looking at the offside decisions. Is it because Arsenal were great defensively, or is it because we got lucky that Richarlison's
Gabriel's got short boots?
One was onside, wasn't it? They drew the line in the wrong place, turns out. If you go back and look at it again, they actually drew the line slightly behind his boot. So he was actually onside. I think it's the second one.
Bloody hell. I think the problem with the game, the game on Monday, from what I saw with my untrained eyes, is Rafa Benitez decided to push and press a high line and a high intensity against us. And what Arsenal needed to do is do what we normally do, which is playing the ball out from the back. I'm absolutely fine with that, as long as you do actually break the press. And as soon as you break the press, then by getting the ball out wide, there was a couple of instances, I've seen a few sort of short passages of play that people have put on Twitter where we break the press and we get the ball into a good position, but then there's no runners in behind because you've got Lacazette, who's basically sitting there in defensive midfield, waddling around. You've got Martinelli, that's, if the ball's out on the right side, he's too far isolated on the left. And you've got Saka, who likes to tuck in field. So what ended up happening was we kept breaking the press and then stopping and going backwards, and then it all grinds to a halt, and it ends up being, the standing sort of walking football where you're just, sideways passing. And by then, Everton out of possession can then sit back and say, all right, well, we tuck into our structure and that's it. And then at certain points, we just press high. And so
the
we
winning
just didn't
goal,
break the press.
The winning goal was predictable, wasn't it? Because he did that minutes early, didn't he? And you can trace it all the way back once again. Xhaka got booked early on because Xhaka gonna Xhaka. He doesn't get that needless booking, and it was a needless booking in a needless area of the pitch that he got that booking from. He doesn't have that booking. He just takes out Damari Gray as soon as he starts breaking forward. And I think there was that still that
that's why he should have been subbed.
Yeah, but I think there was a still that Oswald put up, wasn't there, of like 93rd, 94th minute, and we got 6 players in front of the ball. I mean, use your brain. And you got, again, Ben White charging upfield. He gets absolutely rinsed for that goal. And yes, it's a great hit. It's a quality strike, but he shouldn't have ever been in that position to have got into that. He should have been fouled. He should have been stopped at source. But Xhaka couldn't do it, and White doesn't get anywhere near him. And before you know it, it's in the net. So, and let's be honest, if somebody said to you before the game on Monday night, 1-1 at Everton, I don't know about you guys, I would have been no. Everton are dog shit. We should be beating them 3-4, 5-1, not taking a 1-1.
Watford did, and Watford is shit.
What have we done? We've lost to them. And Watford went behind in that game, didn't they? If I'm not mistaken.
No, Watford. The only thing Watford have got that's any good is their attack, and that's only every now and then. So Arteta should have looked at that and gone, "That's the way to beat them. Just constant attack."
Yeah, well, same at Man United. They can't defend for shit. So what do we do? Score and then sit behind the ball for 80 minutes.
Well, it's back-to-back games. You've got 1-0 up and lost it.
Yeah, and
back-to-back games we've been shafted on VAR as well. I'm just going to drop that one.
That's
Tommy's been abused.
But we can't hold our, and that it's a red card. Like whatever school of thought you come from, and when you've got 2 professionals in the studio saying he meant that, and we've all been in that situation, haven't we, where we've left a bit on somebody. But all I would say again is, does that change the performance? No, should he use that as a? If anything, use that as an injustice. And
it doesn't change. It doesn't change the performance, but it does change the actual in-game narrative. Because if Everton are down to 10 men, they can't press us as they did, and then therefore we will retain the ball a lot more. And also, we're going to be able to push an extra because we've got an extra man. We can put more pressure on them. You probably would have seen us. I mean, in Premier League football, when you get the half-decent sides, particularly if there's a good hour left to play. I don't know what the stats are, but it wouldn't surprise me if sort of 8 out of 10 matches or 9 out of 10 matches, the team that goes down to 10 men in the first half ends up losing the game, because this is elite sport and fine margins make a massive difference. So I think that would have completely have shifted the the actual narrative of the game. That doesn't change the fact that even after that, we still should be battering Everton. But I do think it has a massive impact. And this is now not, I don't want to go all conspiracy theories, but this is now happening with an alarming regularity. Decisions like the Tomiyasu tug by Harry Maguire. James MacArthur being able to essentially larrup Bukayo Saka whilst in mid-air against against Crystal Palace, again, completely changes that game narrative because they don't press as many bodies forward. And it is starting to really wind me up. And I wish I'd watched, do you know what I wish? I had more time to watch in full more Premier League matches of other teams, because I'd like to actually have a more impartial view and see if this is just, we seem to be getting the wrong end of the stick more often than not. I'm not talking about there being a conspiracy. There's not any bungs. This isn't fantasy land, but something is happening, and we don't seem to be getting. There's a lot of decisions that just make me go,
Yeah, there's definitely some fishy stuff going on.
We've got small money. Real Giannis. Giving us $10 dues. Performances, results are annoying, but what really ruins me is his decision making. Nketiah, Pepe, Xhaka playing when he is exhausted, isn't flexible enough to cover, never gotten the best out of our strikers. Cheers, Giannis, very kind of you.
And throw in Tierney for Tavares as well. Completely pointless, needless substitution. Just didn't need to be done, did it? I mean,
if you're defending the game, Tierney's a better defender than Tavares is.
We weren't at the time.
Injury. No.
It was the 60-ish minutes, wasn't it? Tierney comes off.
The first change, wasn't it? It was the first change you made, wasn't it?
60-ish minutes. It was the one that it's the one that Xhaka should have come off at the same time as well, because it was players that haven't played in four games. Take them off because they've done 60 minutes in their legs. Great. Bring 2 fresh bodies on.
Oh, Xhaka should have just come off. I would have let. Tierney was fine. He was fine. He still had all his energy. Whereas Xhaka.
I don't know about Tierney. No,
you don't like Tierney.
But watch back one of the goals. He's off. He's off gallivanting.
Yeah, but he's a left back. You just.
Yeah. So what's he doing? Andre Santosing or if there's Kolasinac up there.
So the solution. So the solution to your attacking left back is you bring off your attacking left back and you bring on an even more attacking left back now.
Yeah, who can get back?
No,
because he's better defensively.
You just do your job as a coach, and you have a little word, and you say, "Look, Kieran, we're hanging on to this lead. Just sit back."
Or maybe the other thing would be, Granit Xhaka covers for him, but I've just asked Granit Xhaka to cover us defensively. But I think the other thing, continue with Chris's point about going down to 10 men. The thing we couldn't deal with against Everton was Takehiro. When Rafa decided, right, Takehiro, I'm letting you off the leash. Because you can get at this Arsenal side because you're just going to bounce off them.
He did that for Watford regularly.
Yeah, and he does it for. He did it. That was why Takehiro was in everybody's fantasy football teams at the beginning of the season, because Rafa just says to him, "Right, you can go on an adventure now," and he just ruins teams. He ruined Brighton exactly the same thing. Just you unleash him, he will break through teams, and he is closer to the Thomas Partey that we thought we were getting than Thomas Partey is right now. That's the player we expected to turn up, is a player that could do that to other teams. And instead, we saw Partey kind of whimpering in the corner, Granit Xhaka getting booked unnecessarily or not even closing him down, which is where his unnecessary yellow card can come a lot sooner if he just takes Takehiro out. But as soon as he lets Takehiro go past him, Takehiro now knows for the rest of the game, all right, this guy's never going to close me down. He's just going to sit back and let me pick my pass rather than close me down. He's just going to try and shuttle me and get the interception, rather, as Chris said, with our tackling. I don't mind. I think, is it Maldini that said that if you make a tackle, you've made a mistake? Because it's about positional sense. Pep said he didn't teach tackling because if your defenders are in the right place and the loose ball comes, you're in the right place. You don't need to make a tackle. Making a tackle is either through desperation or actually there is some requirement you actually need to do it. But I don't know.
Encourage Mikel to go down the Pep route even further. Christ.
Yeah, but Takehiro was. I think he was absolutely superb and was the main reason why we lost that game again. Was we just couldn't cope with him, and either the players on the field and the manager didn't spot it, or the manager didn't know how to cope with it. Which, like I say, there's been other managers far more illustrious or more experienced than Arteta that got done over by Takehiro in that Everton side right now.
Right, we need to move this on a little bit.
Just very quickly speaking of strikers, just yet another nod to Ligue 1's finest Canadian, Jonathan David, who's yet again got another goal tonight in the Champions League for Lille, who are about to qualify. So
Sebastian Haller has got 10 goals in the Champions League this season. Do you want him back?
But Ajax actually create goals and they play.
Jovino's about to win the Turkish title with Trabzonspor. Do you want him back?
He's injured, isn't he? Didn't he do his knee?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think he's out for a year.
We just need, I think the gist of all this last hour and 40 minutes is we need more Canadians at Arsenal. We start off with a bloke at Bayern.
Alphonso Davies. Not going to happen. But yeah, that's
Jeff's favourite player. Then we get Paul Pesci-Scalito about a retirement, just to make up the numbers. And anyway, right, I did this earlier. Something I did a little. Well, first of all, this. Whoever did this, there's no @ on this. I don't know who did this, but someone very clever said this is Arsenal's 7 league wins this season. Norwich, 20th. Burnley, 18th. Watford, 17th. Newcastle, 19th. Spurs and Villa both sacked their manager, and Leicester 11th. For me, that was one of my favourite games of the season. Other Kris, what's your thoughts on that?
They are, I mean, when you look at that, it's easy to just pick holes, but Tottenham are still a decent side, and we bullied them. Aston Villa, all right, they sacked their manager, but they're still a decent side, and we bullied them. Going away to Leicester that's no shame in that. Leicester beat Man United at home quite comfortably. I seem to recall. I think that was 4-2. So I'm not one of these that looks at the result and the team and says, "Oh, it was only." I don't like caveats. I don't care if we beat every single team except Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and get smashed against those teams 10-0. I wouldn't care if we won every single other game. You wouldn't find me putting caveats in because we'd be finishing fourth and we'd have no problems with that. So I haven't got a problem. with bullying those teams. You just got to make sure you do it. And that was the problem. And that's the reason why I'm feeling quite low after the Everton game more than the Man United game, because Everton is the sort of performance where that's a team we should bully, come back home, say, all right, we played crap, but Odegaard got the goal, and then we shut up shop and we ended up winning the game. So happy days.
Josh, any wise words on that? Do you want me to bring it? If anyone wants to bring it back up, just give me the nod.
No, I think in terms of, they're all games we should have won, and we did. Again, there's a lot of caveats we can try and pull into it. I think if we'd beaten Watford 8-0 or 1-0, it makes no difference in the group of the results, and we'd still be spitting feathers because we've just lost 4
goal difference.
Yeah, but we'd still have lost to Liverpool, we still would have lost to Everton, and we still would have lost to Man United.
Do you really think that wouldn't give us some more confidence in
we
scoring goals? We saw after Aubameyang got the hat-trick against the West Brom under-7s. A couple of games after that, he was almost looking like a decent player for a while.
2 games and that was it, though. That's, I think, it's kind of thing that, right now we are in a kind of performances secondary basis. We need points on the boards. I'm happy to see positive results, and then when the negative results will come, sure, we can then start going over and saying, oh, the underlying numbers here said that actually all of our wins are basically losses anyway. And we can all get very depressed about it.
Are basically losses.
I mean, that's some of the stuff we've seen.
That's a headline I'd love to see.
That's
what Kris would write.
The XG lovers will be all over that. It was like it's basically the opposite of what happened to Brighton last season. It was all of Brighton's losses were actually wins because they won on XG. Same with us, but the opposite.
Pirate,
you got anything to say on that list?
No.
We're only beating the teams that are going down?
No, it doesn't worry me. It's where we are. It is, again, it just comes back to what I said at the start of the show. I'm sick of these people saying, oh, well, Liverpool, we don't expect anything from them. Well, we don't expect anything from Man United. Or we don't expect, fuck off. Like, should expect, at the very least, some sort of competitive nature against the bigger sides. And the facts are we've been absolutely smashed by three of them, now. We've lost to the worst United side in 10 years. We beat Leicester, who exactly as that run suggests. I mean, I don't know what has happened to Brendan Rodgers and his teeth. Maybe his name is in the envelope this year. I don't know, but they've gone off a cliff. And even then, you go back and watch that game. We got a couple of goals, but we weren't great, really. We hung on, didn't we? So, yeah, it's worrying. But as we said earlier on, I wouldn't be surprised if we beat West Ham and Southampton, then lost to Leeds. I mean, it's just...
There aren't many teams in the Premier League right now that are dominating for 90 minutes. That's the other thing I would say right now. So us only dominating a game for 20 minutes and getting it won, there's plenty of teams doing that at the moment. Outside of probably Liverpool, City have seemed to be doing most of the league in second gear rather than actually performing at a high level. And we've just seen Chelsea have just ruined all of their midfielders at the same time. So now we're just going to bear the fruits of poor man management or squad rotation.
For a reason, aren't we? We're a mid-table side. I know a few people have said, they can see us finishing fifth or, squeaking top four. I don't. I think we're destined for 8th or 9th again if this trajectory stays the way it is. Christmas period is always crucial as well because we have played all season where we've been playing once a week. Now we're going to play 5 games in 20 days or something stupid. It's going to be. We need to get some decent wins. Is that Leeds game the cup game, by the way?
No, Sunderland.
Oh, okay. So
so that's in the cup.
No, I meant the Mickey Mouse Cup, whatever the hell it's called. Yeah, the one that's going to be our Champions League if we win it. Yeah, I mean it's the next league fixtures. Just looking at them now, Southampton at home on Saturday. West Ham on the 15th, Wednesday. Yeah, Leeds away on the 18th. Leeds with half a squad right now, by the way. Then the Sunderland game, and then away at Norwich. Realistically, you should be looking at 12 points from those games. You should be
we should have gone to Man United and beat them.
Yeah, but West Ham will give us a good test. Leeds under the light. Is it? I think it's under the lights, isn't it? But I mean, Leeds is. Leeds, you just never know what you're going to get, do you? And they'll raise their game for an opponent like us, and they'll get in our heads like they did last time. And they need points, by the way. They're fighting. Norwich are a different side under Villa man, whose name I've forgotten.
Gerrard.
That's Villa, isn't it? Who's the ex-Villa manager that's down there?
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith, thank you. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Norwich are suddenly, Champions League winners, but I'm just saying they will be a lot better than what we would have faced previously. And yeah, I mean Moyes, the Sunderland game Sunderland's in the League Cup, isn't it? Not the FA Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Does that competition matter? I mean, I don't know. Does it just paper the cracks if we? I mean,
not if I get to go to Wembley, it doesn't.
Well, no, there is that. Yeah. There is that.
Not if I get a nice big day out.
The way we're going to be another empty stadium.
If you've got your COVID passport, Kris, yeah. But I mean, if it's if of course it's a trophy to be won, it's important, and we've got the plum draw. But if we get through that, we are probably we're drawing Liverpool, but you just know that's happening. So it's I don't know how far do we go in that.
It'll be fine if it's Liverpool. During the African Cup of Nations, half their squad's gone.
Yeah, true. They'll have enough. I'm sure Divock Origi will turn in a masterclass or something. But yeah, I don't know.
Right. Next thing to do, I'll give you people a little tease of a couple of things I've been working on. Arteta v Moyes. That's all you're going to see of that. I'll use that in another show. Goal stats. Oh, another good one. And where is the one we are going to do? Oh, here's another one that we might do. Where are we in that table? Behave yourself, Josh. Save that for another show. But now we're going to go and do listeners' questions, Josh. So go to Starred, and as you ask the questions, unstar them, but keep the 2 donation ones there. So I want to highlight those at the end and say thanks again.
And we've got to do it in under 11 minutes.
Well, don't ask Kris any questions then.
Exactly.
Which one?
Either.
It will speed it right up. No,
I don't know the answer to anything, so that's the end of the show.
Right, I will go for this first question from Twitch from Carnage1618. I think that's, I don't think Arsenal were founded then, but certainly been Carnage ever since. I'm going to go for other Kris with this question. Do you think Arteta is doing that Arteta special with Nketiah, where he plays a player for a little while to get them to sign a contract? Once convinced and signed, he'll be dropped.
Absolutely not. And the reason why I say that is because I think Nketiah and Balogun share the same agent, and I think the honey, the whispers of honey have been sort of dropped into Balogun's agent's ear, who's also Nketiah's agent, and so he knows that that's the guy that we're aiming for. I think what's happening here is he's trying to keep him on the periphery of the team, maybe keep him motivated. I think it's the wrong decision. As I already said earlier, I'd U23 him for the rest of the season personally. But I think Balogun will get his loan and then hit with the view that next season, mate, you're taking Nketiah's role and hopefully we're in Europe and you get more minutes next season as almost what Nketiah was doing last season.
Yeah.
When you do the questions, Josh, highlight them as well, will you?
Oh,
it's all new.
Sorry.
They've just added this feature, so we're still working it out.
Right. I will go for this question from Julian Salmondo to Pirate Kris. Question: if Arteta was to get sacked, who realistically can we get? Especially if I'm going to say if we're not in Europe, because assuming we're sacking Arteta after a run of 3 games.
I've just answered this one short and sweet, really, Julian. Nothing against your question, but it doesn't matter for a couple of reasons. One, as long as the Cronkies are in charge, this manager's got a job for life. I don't see them. They're too far wedded to the idea of Arteta ball, whatever the hell that is. And it doesn't matter if we said, oh, this manager, that manager, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Because ultimately, until he's not at the club, there's no point in speculating. And I know that's not the question you've asked, but there just isn't. There isn't any point. There are plenty of managers, high caliber, high class that we could get if the time came. However, they would not be if we were to, move a manager on mid-season. That we cannot be doing that. We cannot be doing that. If we get to the end of the season and we finish outside of Europe. For me, this is not my agenda. This is just how I feel. If we don't make Europe this season, he should go. He should. And I don't care whether you replace him with Graham Potter, Chris Coleman, Jordan. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. There are better managers out there for me that can manage this squad better. But Arteta deserves the right to be given the chance. This is his season. This is his squad, as I keep saying, and we'll see where he ends up. And please do not at Drew in this message because his head will literally explode. But if you can potentially approach Ten Hag at Ajax at the end of the season and say, do you fancy something new? He would be a very, very nice fit, I think, in terms of how he sees the game and how he likes to play the game. But I think we'd be at the end of a very long queue because I think he's quite well liked in the potential managers for other clubs category.
Yeah, he definitely answered that question yes, and then go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%.
Short answer to that. Danny, I'm going to ask you a question. I think, and it's going to be from Claudius. Would you give Arteta one more window to sort the striker situation, or would you change manager now and let the new manager, and I'd say with caveat, and Edu, who would still be here,
and Josh,
get the January window, and me?
Not you.
I think if we were in this situation last season, I would have said just leave it with Arteta. But that 4th place is available, and we're not getting it under Arteta. We may not be getting 5th or 6th under Arteta. So this is a really important season because next season, Man United are going to be bang on it. They're going to spend £200 million pound on a striker, and then they're going to be on it. This is our only chance. Remember when Leicester won the league? That was an open season. Anyone could have won the league. It's the same with this season. So as much as I don't like getting rid of managers because you start it all over again, even if we get Man United, they've got a short-term manager in, and I think they've won tonight, and they won again. They won, was it their midweek game or the weekend? I think they won. It can be done as long as you get someone who knows what they're doing. So only for the sake of trying to get that top four and getting them up. Because Aubameyang can score goals, so can Lacazette if they're used properly, and he's not using them properly. So, adios.
Danny makes a really good point really quickly, though. If there was ever a season where you could fudge your way into the top four, this is that season, because there isn't a lot above us. Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea are gone. They're in the distance. There isn't a lot between any of the other clubs. So if there is ever... Look at Wolves right now. Look at a few wins and they're up the table. So, yeah, if there was ever an opportunity, it's this season. I agree with Danny there.
Excellent. Question for other Kris as well. From Phil Macker on the YouTube. I've been saying for some time we fade in the last third. So can we sort this with the current players? And is Arteta capable of sorting it out?
Does he mean final third as in final third of the pitch, or final third as in the final third of the game?
I'm guessing the final third of the pitch. Only because I don't know who splits games up into thirds.
Yeah,
that's the right answer, though.
That's an excellent point. I think this is the biggest challenge. And this is the thing that's basically got every single one of us not saying what an amazing manager that we've got. Because I think actually what he's done when he came in to build us structurally in the defensive third, I'm kind of okay with. In the midfield third, I've been kind of okay with. It's like nosebleeds as soon as we get into the final third. Now, if you're going to try and be an apologist for what's happened under Arteta so far, which I don't profess to be. Again, going back to my devil's advocate, he has got play. He hasn't. That's the part of the team that he hasn't really influenced and impacted in the transfer market so far. However, the counter argument to that is, well, he spent all of his time and money on defenders when actually maybe he could have balanced that out a little bit by buying different types of creative players or building the team slightly differently. Can Arteta be the one to sort that out? Possibly, if he gets money. Should he be the one to sort that out? I don't know. And going back to the point that you guys were just talking about a minute ago with the managers, Chelsea were having a shocker under Lampard last season. They were decisive and they ended up winning the Champions League. Man United have been decisive. They've got a good manager in. Even Aston Villa sacked a guy that loved the club and had done great things for them, but they were kind of decisive, and already Gerrard's getting results for them. So there's a lot to be said for being decisive. However, as Kris has already said, Arsenal aren't decisive, and so we know that they won't be decisive. If we lose to Southampton and we lose to West Ham, and we go on a terrible death spiral run that sees us 11th, 12th, the only way I see that Arteta gets sacked is if we lose the next 6 or 7 games in a row. And it's a bit like the Emery area, because I think that it will be 2 strikes and that's it.
But imagine the extra money from the Amazon documentary if they sacked Arteta and brought a new manager in.
Imagine if that manager was Jose Mourinho as well.
Oh, don't go there. Jesus, don't shit in the pot. Christ.
Which player do you think will be grovelling to Josh Kroenke to ask if AC Milan have been in touch again, and why is it Ainsley Maitland-Niles?
Yeah, it would be. And he'd be at Danny Rose's house.
He'd end up at Sunderland online.
Yeah. Just please, whatever happens, if Mikel did go at the end of the season, I swear to God, if we get that Argentine fraud in Paris, I'm done. I'm so done.
I know there was a question about which manager in France you would probably aim for.
Anyone.
Other than Pochettino.
Maybe not Claude Puel either. That probably wouldn't end well.
Is he still in a job? Does he technically count?
He's just been given gardening leave at St Etienne, so he's
there
gone.
We go. Or probably Sampaoli, because to be honest, as fun as it would be, nobody's heads would be left.
No.
But I do have a question for you, Kris. Talking about French football, one was about Galtier, but I don't think. I think because he's Rennes manager at the moment, isn't he? And they are currently like the best team in the world. Nice. Oh,
yeah. Rennes is Pep Genesio.
Oh,
in France. Yeah.
Awkward. He was an excellent manager. Why did Lyon sack him? Leon sack him. Anyway,
he wasn't excellent at Lyon.
The question I was going to ask you was from Liam Greyhurst, and it's this one about Gigi.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. It would make sense.
Why though? Why is it even a possibility?
Because
What's that?
he's
because the Eurostar stops Houston. It's only 3 stops on the tube.
He's not getting game time at PSG at all. He signed for as a free agent, but under quite a lot of hype, and he's just not getting game time at PSG. So it would make sense in terms of the sort of profile of player we could make use of. But the wage structure, because PSG probably wouldn't, we wouldn't need to pay too much for him. It would be a very kind of, well, you cover the wages, we'll give him some minutes type of situation. But again, I think there'd be bigger clubs than us that would probably be ahead of the queue, personally. I like him. I like Gini Wijnaldum. I think he's a very decent and underrated midfielder. Surprised Liverpool were willing to. Well, I think he wanted to move, didn't he? But yeah, it's not worked out at PSG. But, and here's the caveat: the fly in the ointment again is a certain M. Pochettino might not be in Paris much longer. So I mean, we'll see. I think he'll probably will see out the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if when Adam says, you know what, I'll stick this out and I'll move on at the end of the season if I don't get a new manager then. So
I mean, it could have been worse. He could have ended up at Barcelona. There was just 2 choices.
There is that. I mean, he could go to Barcelona on loan as well. He could end up there, to be fair. But yeah, he's definitely a good player. Like, you don't become a bad player overnight. He's just not getting games.
Yeah, that is fair, but
there's a better player in Liga that we could go for though, Josh.
The one that got relegated for Swansea, that one.
Are we thinking about the same one here?
That's at Lille.
Renato. No, not Renato Sanchez. He's
the big. Oh, maybe. I thought you were going to talk about
Loz midfielder, came through Man City's academy. He's an absolute beast, and he is arguably one of the most informed midfielders in Europe right now.
Is that the one you tweeted about the other day?
Yes, he is fantastic. Just go watch his performance against PSG. Absolutely ran that midfield, runs for days, engine to die for, goal threat, powerful. Oh, just what a wonderful player.
Yeah, or anyone from Brest, because they've scored in every game this season. That's what I do remember about them. Remember, Brest always score.
What are the two?
Yeah. Do I have any more questions that we've got in here? Would any of us consider Rodgers coming in for Arteta from formerly Noza?
No.
No.
Thanks.
Would you take Jean-Paul Gaultier as the replacement of Arteta?
I mean, he'd smell nice.
Great looking kids.
Gaultier.
You mean Gaultier of Nice? No, he's part of the Nice project under a lot of money. He ain't going nowhere. We missed the boat last summer. I would have done last summer though. Very good coach.
He's a Nice manager, but is he a good manager?
Very good. Move on.
Yeah, I know I am. It was easy. It was there. Much like the joke I told everybody before the podcast.
God, don't.
That's an excellent podcast.
Low-hanging fruit.
Oh, I know, right. Danny, I think... Oh, here's a good question from Julian Salmon, because I said this to Kevin Campbell and I haven't been let back on their podcast since. I think, to be fair, I said it in September. Chris, sorry, I'll start with you first. Would you consider an offer for Thomas Partey?
No, I certainly would not, because he is a class midfielder. He's just in bad form at the moment. And I also think that he picked up a knock and is probably one of these players like Aaron Ramsey that takes 5 or 6 games before you actually start to see him purring again. So I think he will get better. We just need to see it out. And then he can go off to the African nations when he just starts to hit form.
Other Chris?
No, I wouldn't. But the actual question is, lads, would you now? Well, I think you meant now, but would you now consider offers for Partey? It depends if it's at Downing Street or not, doesn't it? Because relevant jokes and things. No, I wouldn't. Chris is nail on the head. You don't become a bad player overnight. He needs the right partner.
Look how many partners he's had in the last 6 or 7 league games.
Yeah, exactly. What he needs. Do you know what he needs?
Stability.
That's what he needs. He needs big Frankie, big cock in the midfield next to him.
I watched the 2015 FA Cup final the other night. Oh, Frankie Cock, great.
Oh, big Cock. I'd love
and Ozil, when we won, Ozil didn't celebrate any of the goals of anybody. And Ramsey ran up to him and went to do a high five, and Ozil just stood there and then walked off.
And who wouldn't want to celebrate a big Cock? I mean, But no, he wouldn't know. Well, but yeah, I agree with Chris. He's spot on. You don't become bad overnight. He needs the right run of games. Maybe the AFCON might do him good. Getting away from our cesspit at the moment and giving him a bit of a break because he plays well for Ghana.
And some sunshine, that must have an effect when you come from a country where it's always sunny, and then you're playing your league football in a country where it's mostly sunny, and then coming to the shithole that is N5.
And he needs rhythm, like Chris said. Like, he's a player he needs consistent amount of games, get some rhythm, and he needs a better manager. Oh, did I go there? Sorry.
Should bring Grace Jones in because she's a slave to the rhythm.
I say shithole unless you're loaded.
I can't. I can't. I just can't.
See, Chris thought I was going to troll him with his opinions. Instead, I'm just going to annoy him with bad jokes. That's what he thought.
Just honestly, if anyone subscribed to this channel after that joke, that's
the title of the podcast. Danny, do you want to take the questions off me now? Because I think it's run its course.
Take the questions.
Well, I'll answer. The real Giannis has put a couple in there, and as he threw some money at us, he's put 6 goals from set pieces, 18 goals overall in 15 games. Who's at fault, Josh?
This one.
Yeah.
6 goals from set pieces. Not our new set piece coach. Look at that.
Give him a
6
raise.
goals. Woof. Bring in, obviously that change has come in. We're talking about 12 goals from open play in 15 games. I think it's the striker for me. I know we're not creating a lot, but it is kind of a chicken and egg. Is that having nothing to create off of is as much of a problem of creating balls for nothing. Like Kieran Tierney going down the line and putting in a load of crosses, and we go, oh, that's a lovely cross, and no one being there. Who's at fault there? Is it Kieran Tierney for running down the line and putting a cross in for no one? Or is it the fact that there's no player there to be on the end of it?
Or they missed from 6 inches.
Yeah. I mean, that also doesn't help when poor little Eddie can't score.
And Alba.
Oh, and Oba.
Had a couple of glaring short misses.
There were quite a few against Everton where clearly we need to do some finishing training. And I would say that our defence isn't that good that none of our players can get shots off in training. We still got Pablo Mari and Calum Chambers for them to shoot against. So it should be all right.
They must be like cones in training. People just run in and out of, they're just there for that now.
I think everybody just, now that the novelty's worn off, that Rob Holding's got a new hairline, I think they just don't talk to him anymore now.
He's
well, you know what happened. He couldn't head the ball for 7 weeks after his head had swollen up.
And just you wait. I mean, in January, Kolasinac should be fit and he'll be like a new signing. Can't wait.
Yeah. There you go, Danny. That was all the questions, and only 2, maybe 3 terrible jokes in it.
Jolly good. Right, there we go. We're all done. 2 hours and 7 minutes. It's always just so much fun. We just waffle on. We will be back on what's the 11th. This website needs to put what day of the week the 11th is. Oh, Saturday, playing Southampton at 3:00. I will be getting up early because at 2 p.m. on Saturday, live preview show with me and Glenn in New York. And we do it an hour before kickoff because I had no idea all these years that's when the team sheet is released, an hour before kickoff. I had no idea until our Nick told us. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea. Plus, it reminds you lot to come back later and watch the show. So then after the show, we would do an ABW live. Just going to have a look at who is on. It's me and Nick again. Oh, that's good. And then the West Ham preview game is me and Dragor Vardo, Romanian Guna. Bulgarian Guna. I always get those 2 places mixed up.
Don't get it mixed up when you speak to one of them.
No, please
will
don't
get slashed in the face.
Well, my friend George is a delivery bloke, and he is one of them. I'm not going to say, I can't remember which. And then the post game for West Ham is me and Stan the Man, and we might have some other people on those ones. What else is? If you've enjoyed the show, click like. If you haven't, go to the Gooners podcast and click thumbs down. Subscribe if you feel like it. And thanks to our guest, other Kris. Very kind of you to turn up again. You've been very good.
Legend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Kris.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll be back after we take another humiliating loss. If we win any games, don't expect to see me anytime soon because there's a pattern developing here. I'm joking. God, I have a sense of humour.
Also, thanks, Josh. Lovely to see you back in such a festive mood.
Oh yeah, it's great to be back and great being here, winding up Kris on the internet for a lot of people to see because sometimes it gets lost in WhatsApp.
I think we all need to give Jeff Hull and Fundon a special, maybe even an enticement like that to try and go
back in.
Like the dove from above.
Can we also say a big shout out to Steve Richardson in the chat, who's clearly an Everton fan and has put up with our waffle for 2 hours. So fair play to you, Steve. Things must be really bad at Everton if you have to tune in to watch us lot talk shite. All the best to you, sir.
He mentioned about the Everton Stadium and they filled in the lock. I watched a documentary on that on YouTube. Very good. It looks like it's going to be an amazing stadium. But thanks to all the people that have been there the whole time. And finally, I want to say thank you to J Rob, who stuffed $2 down other Chris's pants. He's going to spend it all on Kinder Eggs. And the real Giannis, who gave us $10 dues. That is I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Maybe buy myself some more kittens. So thank you very much to you two. Right, we'll be back on Saturday and see you all later. Goodbye.